What's happening? What's happening? Part of my presence YouTube channel. What's going on? I want to talk about the Rory and Mal podcast. They dropped I guess their first episode of the podcast. Now a lot of people are talking about it, and they're shooting them a lot of bail. Okay, people are saying that it's a rough draft. Yo, give them some time. They're going to develop. Look at the Joe Budden podcast. It wasn't good in the first couple of episodes. All kind of bail that they're shooting them. But let's be for real. When Joe Budden first put his podcast, it had traction. Why? Because he is a star. He's already been doing stuff like podcasting already, as far as talking to the public, talking to his fans. So it was a natural progression for him. People wanted to see what he was up to. And don't forget, but Rory and Mal have been doing it for what, 7 years? 5 years? With Joe Budden? People want to act like this is their first foray into podcasting. To act like they're getting their feet wet. No, they've been doing this. They even had episodes on the Joe Budden podcast where Joe Budden was even there. I think it's episode 202. So they've already done this. So for people to say, well, give them time, how much time do you need? Right? Put it this way: if you were to trade Steph Curry from the from the Warriors and put him on the Bullets, right? Or Washington Wizards, I guess they're called now. Whatever the fuck they call them. If you were to put him on the Bullets, right? The old school team. I'm old school, right? If you put him on the Bullets, what do you say? Oh, give him some time before he gets used to shooting 3-pointers. He's gonna take some time to adjust. No, you're gonna say, Steph, the baskets are the same, the balls are the same, the length from the 3-point line is the same. What is there to determine? What is there to work into? You take the shot, you shoot. You get it in, you move forward, you should be running the ground or hitting the ground running. But nah, they want to shoot these guys bail. And the thing about this, when you listen to what they're talking about, there's a lot of filler information, a lot of stuff that after a while you're like, yo, I don't give a fuck about this. What are you talking about? I don't care. And there was one instance that was pretty interesting. Sorry, not interested in the sense that I want to hear more, but interested as far as what they're actually talking about. Like, where did they get this from? They were talking about how Mal, they did some type of test, and Mal has a good reach of the male audience. They haven't done Rory's analytics yet, so they don't know. But then Rory asked Mal a question. He asked, what are you going to do to get the female audience? And Mal's talking about wearing pastel clothing, talking about cooking. I'm like, yo, are you guys out of your minds? Do you know who brought in the female audience? Joseph Budden. Joe brought in the female audience. Joe brought in all of the B class or A class rappers, because Joe is the brand. Joe is the star. Joe was the guy who you were feeding off of. And a lot of people were saying, oh, they need a third person, they need a third mic, they need someone to bounce off information. Yeah, guess who that third person is? Joseph Budden. Again, they keep trying to shoot bail, but let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade. The reason why the Joe Budden podcast worked with Rory and Mal is because Joe was aware of how to move things forward. He was smart enough to understand when people don't really give a fuck about what they're saying. He was able to transition, cut people off, and move on to the next topic and keep things interesting. These guys don't know how to do that. Now, I won't even say do that yet. It's been 5-7 years. They should know how to do this. They should already know. They should be hitting the ground running. They're not able to do that just yet. I don't think they ever will, because they are not stars. They are not the ones who have the gift of gab for people to be interested in them for the long haul. Now, I will say this. They lucked up working with Kevin Durant, right? Because people are going to want to talk to them off the strength of Kevin Durant's affiliation. Okay, let's be for real. They're going to get interviews from athletes, rappers, and again, of course, the Rockefeller link, and also the fact that they were Joe Budden, so there's some type of link, is some type of momentum that they have there as well too, which is why Joe Budden should have really pushed the issue with the non-compete clause, Because if you ask me, they're going to scavenge part of his fans based on them being able to put out a podcast so quickly after they've already left or they were fired, however you want to call it. So it's kind of weird. I just want to put the non-compete clause in effect and shut that shit down. And maybe it is in effect, and that's why they just dropped this so unofficially without any promotion on their end. Or maybe it's because, like they said, they don't give a fuck about the podcasting business. Who knows? But this was, to me, was sloppy. This, to me, if it's any indication of what's to come, they really need to switch things up. They need to definitely add another person in there, preferably a star or someone that could or has the authority to tell them, yo, let's move on from this conversation because you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. Or no one cares, you're losing the audience. They need somebody like that to put these guys in check because them two on their own, they don't really got it. And the one thing I will say, just based on the banter that I heard between them, how much longer before them two start having issues? How much longer before Rory asked Mal for the splits? How long before Rory asked Kevin Durant to see the accounting? You know, all these things, people want to point fingers at Joe Budden. And yes, Joe has his flaws. Joe has things that he has to handle and deal with. He probably never should have done what he did publicly. Should have done it behind closed doors and just keep it 100. But let's be for real. Rory and Mal have been playing both ends. They've been playing underhanded. And for them to come out and have this podcast up and running so quickly, it just points to the fact that they weren't fucking with Joe Budden for a long time. Right? And Joe had no choice but to take actions and get them the hell out of here unceremoniously as he did. Okay, so that's my take on the whole situation. You let me know what you think. Did you like that first episode? Did you think that it has some longevity? Is it something that you want to continually hear going forward? And one last thing I want to point out. It was only an hour long. A Joe Budden podcast is around 2.5, 3 hours. This was only an hour long. We haven't heard from these guys for almost, 3-4 weeks? And they can only speak for an hour? And even in that hour, I lost interest. A lot of people lost interest. So what does that say for the subject matter of the podcast? For the format of the podcast? For the audience that they're trying to build moving forward? Do they have a chance in this? Who knows? Let's see, let's find out. But they lucked up working with a star like Kevin Durant, so people are going to gravitate towards them just to be, on the same wave as Durant. But outside of that, I don't see them having any staying power. Well, that's my take on the first episode of the Royal Mall podcast. Let me know what you think. Do you think that they have longevity? Do you think that this is something that's going to continue? We'll see. But until then, may your next move be your best move. Until next time, part of my presence. Peace.